I never imagined that walking into Ryan's room would change everything. He was lying there, fast asleep. The afternoon sun was slanting through the curtains, casting soft golden stripes across his chest. I hadn't meant to stare. But something about the way he looked, unguarded, peaceful, froze me in place. And in that moment, something inside me shifted. That summer was supposed to be like every other one. Same town, same heat, same routines. I'd spend a few weeks at my mom's best friend's house, Ryan's place. We'd grown up together. Family friends. Practically brothers. Only this year, something felt different. As soon as I stepped out of the car, tossing my bag over my shoulder, Ryan's mom pulled me into a tight hug. The house smelled like fresh laundry and coffee, familiar, comforting. But my mind wasn't on that. It was on him. Ryan. Tall, confident, always a little too comfortable in his own skin. We'd always been close, but this time, my chest tightened at the thought of sharing space with him again. Not just the physical closeness, but the emotional proximity. The unspoken history. The growing weight of things I couldn't say. Jake, man, took you long enough, his voice pulled me back. He leaned against the doorframe, smirking like he always did. Just basketball shorts. No shirt. His skin was glistening from the heat. He pulled me into a one-armed hug, then shoved me playfully. You still scrawny, or you finally hit the gym, he teased. I rolled my eyes. I work out. Sure, he laughed. Bet you still lose every fight. Maybe because you cheat. That laugh, it did something to me. And it shouldn't have. The first few days passed like they always did. Swimming, basketball, late-night video games. It was easy. Comfortable. But not simple. Because there were moments. Little things. The way his muscles flexed when he stretched after workouts. The casual arm he'd toss around me when we were watching TV. The way our legs would brush when we sat too close, and neither of us moved away. One night, we were sprawled out in his room. The glow from the TV flickered across the walls. Ryan was lying on the bed, one arm over his face. I leaned against his dresser, barely paying attention to the screen. You ever think about it? He asked suddenly. I blinked. Think about what? He didn't move his arm. But I could hear the smirk in his voice. You know, doing stuff with a guy. My pulse went wild. My body froze. I forced a laugh. Where the hell did that come from? Ryan finally moved his arm, looking at me with that lazy grin. Just a thought. I mean, not for me or anything. But I get why some guys are into it. Probably feels different. Intense. My throat dried up. He said it like it was nothing. Like he hadn't just tossed a match into the gasoline of everything I'd been trying to suppress. Yeah, I guess, I said softly. He chuckled. Man, imagine if people found out. They'd lose their minds. Yeah, I smirked. They would. Then he turned back to the TV. Like it was nothing. Like he hadn't just unraveled my entire sense of calm. The next morning, I woke up groggy, his words from the night before still echoing in my head. Was it just a joke? Or something else? I dragged myself to the kitchen. His mom had already left for work. The house was quiet until I heard his footsteps behind me. Damn, you look dead, Ryan said, walking in shirtless again, rubbing his eyes. You ever heard of a shirt? I asked, trying to keep my tone light. He grinned, stretching, abs tightening. Too hot. I don't know how you sleep in one. I tried to focus on my cereal, but my stomach was tying itself in knots. So, about last night, he said, grabbing an energy drink. My spoon paused midair. What about it? He smirked. Was it weird? Me asking that. I shrugged, pretending to be cool. Now. Just random. He looked at me for a moment too long. Then gave a slow nod. All right. If you say so. But before walking away, he tossed over his shoulder, by the way, a few of the guys are coming over later. Hope you're ready. For what? He grinned. Just some fun. That afternoon, the house filled with noise and laughter. Chris, Dylan, Marcus, the usual crew. They were loud, competitive, full of dumb energy. We played basketball, jumped in the pool, messed around. But sometimes I'd catch Ryan watching me. Not in a friendly way. More like he was testing something. Waiting. Later that night, we were all in the living room. Music low, drinks passed around. Then Ryan leaned in close, his voice just for me. You ever played Truth or Dare? I raised an eyebrow. What are we, 12? He grinned. Good. We're playing. It started harmless, dumb dares, prank calls, shirtless laps around the yard. But the tension? It was building. I could feel it in the way Ryan kept glancing my way. Then it was my turn. Chris looked at me like he was up to no good. Truth or Dare, Jake? I hesitated. Come on, don't be a coward, Ryan said, eyes glinting. My pride kicked in. Dare. Chris smirked. All right. Kiss someone in this room. Everyone laughed. Loud and obnoxious. My heart pounded. There's no girls here, I said, forcing a smile. That's the point, Marcus chuckled. It's just a dare, Ryan said, voice low, lips curled into that teasing grin. My throat was dry. My hands were sweating. Then Ryan leaned forward, elbows on his knees, eyes locked on mine. Come on, Jake. You scared? The space between us shrank. And then, I moved. I leaned in. Our lips brushed. It was barely a kiss. But everything inside me exploded. For 1 second, the room disappeared. The noise faded. Time stalled. And he didn't pull away. He didn't flinch. He just looked at me, like he saw something he hadn't expected. Something real. Then he grinned and leaned back. Damn, didn't think you'd actually do it. I laughed, hollow, shaky. You dared me. Chris whistled. Didn't expect that. Yeah, Dylan smirked. Looked like you enjoyed it. Shut up, Ryan said, rolling his eyes. But for one heartbeat, when no one else was looking, he glanced at me. And that look, it was different. The night went on. But I wasn't really there. Because all I could think about was the way he didn't pull away. And the way everything in me was telling me. This summer was just getting started. The guys moved on to talking about football and some party happening next weekend. I laughed along, nodded when I was supposed to, but my mind was stuck, looping on what had just happened. That kiss. It wasn't even a real kiss. Just a brush. Just a stupid dare. That's what I kept telling myself. That's what it was supposed to be. So why couldn't I stop thinking about the way Ryan looked at me right after? Why didn't he pull away? And why did it feel, for just a second, like he wasn't completely against it? I told myself to move on. Ryan was straight. Always had been. Always would be. That kiss meant nothing to him, and I needed to get that through my head before I started seeing things that weren't there. But forgetting was hard when he was sitting right next to me, his arm stretched along the back of the couch, fingers close enough to my shoulder that I could feel the heat from his skin. When he leaned over to take a sip of his drink, his knee brushed against mine. Probably accidental. Still, my whole body tensed. I needed air. I stood, stretching like I was just tired. Think I'm gonna crash. Long day. Chris nodded. Yeah, man. We should probably head out too. The rest of the guys groaned but started gathering their things. Ryan walked them to the door, laughing at something Dylan said. I took that chance to retreat to my room, shutting the door behind me and exhaling like I'd been holding my breath for hours. I sat at the edge of the bed, running a hand through my hair. Stop being weird, I told myself. It was just a game. It didn't mean anything. A few minutes later, I heard the front door shut, then footsteps. Ryan's voice came, closer than I expected. You good? I looked up just as my door pushed open. He stood there, hand on the frame, his eyes scanning me like he was trying to read something off my face. I let out a weak chuckle. Yeah. Why wouldn't I be? He stepped in, closing the door behind him. I don't know. You bailed kinda fast. Seemed off. I shrugged. Just tired. Ryan didn't look convinced. He sat at the edge of the bed like he'd done it 100 times before, completely unbothered. You sure it's not about the kiss? I froze. Ryan smirked, elbow resting on his knee. What, you gonna pretend it didn't happen? My throat went dry. It was a dare. Yeah, he said, tilting his head. But you did it fast. No hesitation. I scoffed, trying to act casual. If I didn't, you guys would have roasted me all night. He raised an eyebrow but didn't argue. Just nodded, still looking at me. Still messing with my head. Then he said something I didn't expect. You ever kissed a guy before? I stared at him, caught off guard. Ryan grinned like he knew what he was doing. What? You don't have to answer if it's too personal. Why do you care? He shrugged. Just curious. I didn't know what to say. My heart was beating too fast. My fists clenched the sheets like they might hold me steady. Then Ryan leaned back on his elbows and exhaled. It wasn't as weird as I thought it'd be. I blinked. What? The kiss, he said casually. Thought it'd be. I don't know. Gross. But it wasn't. It was just a kiss. My pulse thundered in my ears. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. He must have noticed the way I was staring, because he laughed. Relax, man. I'm not saying I liked it or anything. That stung more than it should have. I forced a laugh. Yeah. Obviously. Ryan stretched, yawning. Don't overthink it. It was just a game. I nodded like I believed him. Then, as if he hadn't just tossed a grenade into my brain, he stood, stretched, his shirt riding up slightly, and turned toward the door. Night, Jake. And just like that, he was gone. I lay back, staring at the ceiling. I should have let it go. Should have laughed it off like he did. But the way he said it, it wasn't weird, kept circling my mind. Like maybe, just maybe, he was trying to convince himself, too. And I was right. Because what happened next left me speechless. Something was happening. Something real. The ride home from the party was quiet. Ryan didn't speak, and neither did I. But the silence wasn't empty, it was thick, tense. Like something unspoken sat between us, heavy as a storm cloud. I kept glancing at him, his jaw tight, his grip on the steering wheel white-knuckled. He hadn't looked at me once since we got in the car. When we finally pulled into the driveway, he didn't get out right away. He just stared straight ahead, unmoving. Then finally, he exhaled, ran a hand through his hair, and stepped out without saying a word. Fine. If he wanted to act like nothing happened, that was on him. I followed him in. He disappeared down the hallway, his bedroom door clicking shut behind him. I stood there, alone in the hallway, trying to decide whether to let it go or go after him. I chose silence. Back in my room, I collapsed onto the bed, but sleep didn't come. My mind kept spinning. Replaying everything, the way Ryan pulled me away from that girl. The look in his eyes. The kiss. The silence after. Why did it feel like more? Why did it feel like something shifted between us? Eventually, I drifted off, but it didn't last. I woke up sometime later. Still dark. House completely silent. A soft breeze from the ceiling fan pushed against the still air. I rolled over, and that's when I noticed my door was open a crack. Had I left it that way? I sat up, rubbing my eyes. Maybe I needed water. Maybe I just needed to walk it off, whatever this was still buzzing under my skin. When I stepped into the hallway, I saw it. Ryan's door was open, too. Just slightly. That was strange. He never slept with his door open. For a long second, I stood frozen. I should have gone back to bed. But instead, I walked to his door. The room was bathed in soft blue light from the moon filtering through the blinds. Ryan lay on his bed, one arm over his face, chest rising and falling steadily in sleep. He looked different like that. Softer. Not the confident, cocky version of himself I'd grown used to. But calm. Quiet. Real. And for a second, I just stood there. Watching. My mind racing with everything I wasn't supposed to feel. Then, suddenly, he shifted. A small sigh escaped his lips. His fingers curled slightly against his chest, then relaxed again. That was when his eyes fluttered open. At first, unfocused. Then, they landed on me. We both froze. He didn't move. Neither did I. His eyes searched mine like he was trying to piece together what was happening. And just when I thought he'd tell me to leave, he didn't. He just lay there, breathing heavier now. Chest rising faster. Then he spoke. His voice was low, hoarse. "What are you doing?" I couldn't answer. Not because I didn't want to, but because I didn't know how. The tension between us, the closeness, the fear, the desire to understand what this thing was, it all hung there like a wire about to snap. But Ryan still didn't push me away. And for the second time that night, he let me stay. We didn't say much after that. Just sat in the dark, sharing a silence that was anything but empty. Something passed between us. Something neither of us was ready to name. Something we couldn't unfeel. Eventually, I sat down beside him. Not touching. Just near. His breathing slowed. Mine did, too. And whatever had shifted between us at that party, whatever he had tried so hard to bury, was no longer buried. It was real now. It was in the air between us. When morning came, I expected it to be different. Cold. Awkward. Back to normal. But it wasn't. We were quiet over breakfast, but not in the way people pretend nothing happened. More like we were both waiting for the other to say something first. Then Ryan finally broke the silence. His voice was soft. "Last night. I didn't plan for any of that to happen." I nodded. "I know." He looked down, fingers tracing the condensation on his glass. "It's not that I regret it. I just don't know what it means." My chest tightened. "Do you want it to mean something?" He didn't answer right away. "Then, I don't know what I want."